first thing we're gonna do is start with the background. It's looking pretty plain, it's just black. So what we're gonna do is make a new solid, and to make a new solid, just go up here to layer, new, and then solid, or you can just right click the box, new, and then solid right here. And then the color can be anything because we're gonna just like change it in a second, but you can do the color that you want to do. So I'm gonna do like a purplish pinkish color, so like maybe more so purple, but yeah, it's gonna be a very dark purple. And then press OK, and then after this we're going to start making those like glowing shapes, I guess you can call it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a new shape layer. So right click this box again, press new, and then shape layer. And then guys, also if you want to label your layers, I highly suggest doing that. So right click it, then press rename, and then this is just going to be the main background. And then same thing with this, rename, and then let's just do shape layers. Alright, now we're going to actually make our shape layer, and you can either do a circle or you can do like a custom shape, but what I'm gonna do is do a custom shape because yeah. So I'm just gonna do something like very random, but what you want to do is like just click off the screen, and then we're gonna like try to make a weird shape. So you're gonna like drag it and make it curve like this, and then you're gonna make a point like right here, drag, make it curve, and then you're gonna finish it off like right here. And then if you want, you can like make it curve, but like to curve it, just like do it like down here a little bit more. Yeah, you really don't need to like curve it that much. When it's after that, you're gonna finish the shape and you're just gonna end it right there. And then after that, you can always tweak like the mask if it's a little off. So I'm just gonna tweak this a little bit because it's like, yeah, whoa. Alright, I fixed it a little bit more. It's still like a little wonky right there, but it's okay because we're gonna add some turbulent displacement on it anyways. But what we're gonna do on this layer is add a gradient. So we're gonna search up gradient, and then we want to add 4-color gradient. So we're gonna add that to our shape layer, and then it should look something like this right now, but we're gonna change the colors, of course. So we're gonna do like purplish colors. So what we're gonna do is change this yellow to like, let's see, we can do blue and purple, but I think I'm gonna stick with mostly pinks and purples. So I'm gonna use a purple color, and then for this green one, I'm gonna replace it for like a lighter purple. So maybe like this pinkish color, and then we can change this blue, and let's see. Okay, that should be good. And then press OK, and then it should look something like this. It looks very cool so far, period. And then after this, we're gonna right click the shape layer, and then we're gonna go under layer styles, and then we're gonna do inner glow. And what this is gonna do is give us like some inner glow, obviously. But what we're gonna do is we're going to change the color to white, and then what we're gonna do is change everything else. I'm gonna increase the size a little bit, and then it should look something like this, but it's like way too harsh. So we're gonna decrease the opacity just a tad bit. We want it to be very subtle, and then it should look like this. Sorry. And then after that, all we have to do is add turbulent displace to like make it warp. And guys, pay attention to this because we will be doing this step again, but for a different part of the edit. Wink, wink. So we're gonna add turbulent displace, and then after that, we're just going to decrease the amount. But you don't want to decrease it too much. You want to keep it around like maybe like 6, 7. Okay, I'm sorry. But what you're gonna do is change the size as well. We don't have to like change it too much, but just a little bit. And then you can increase the amount just a little bit too. So maybe like 36 or 6. No, I'm playing. I'm not gonna make no more 6, 7 jokes, I swear. But what we're gonna do is make a stopwatch for evolution, and then we're gonna go forward a few frames, and then we're just gonna increase that bad boy. And then you're gonna press U to bring up all your keyframes, and we're just gonna like spread this out here. And then once you play it back, it should warp, so it looks like a lava lamp inside. That's very cool, right? But anyways, after you like that, what you're going to do is you can actually scale this in just a little bit because I don't want the edges to be there. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate this, so Command D, and then I'm going to rotate it, pressing R on my keyboard, and I'm going to rotate it this way, and then I'm going to press P to bring up position, and I'm going to position it like on top of it. Now, if I want, I can move these colors around. So if you want the gradient to be a little bit different for this one, go ahead. But yeah, I think I'm going to change around the gradient just a tad bit because I don't want it to be the exact same. So E, but that should be good. Now after we've done this, what we're going to do is change the blending mode of this one because we want it to be like a little bit different. So what we're going to do is click this toggle switches / what the heck, I can't speak. And then this is going to pop up, but we're going to change the mode to something different like classic difference. And what this is going to do is give us like this cool effect right here, and wherever it like overlaps, it's going to do this like cool thing. So but yeah, once you like whatever you have right here, we're done with the background. I'm going to name this probably Biba Doobie Edit. So that's how you spell Biba Doobie Edit, just so you know. We're now going to start on our Biba Doobie memoji. Anyways, what we're going to do is make a new shape layer. So yes, another shape layer. We're going to right click the box, new, and then we're going to do shape layer right here. And then this time it's going to be a circular one. So we're going to do ellipse tool, and then we're going to drag down, and then we're going to hold shift, and then yeah, it should look like that. Now I low-key didn't have fill on, so I'm going to turn fill back on, and we want this to be, it can be any color because we're going to add gradient on top of it. And then we're going to change the stroke to 0 because we're going to be messing with that later. Now on this circle, we're going to have to center this in anchor point content, layer content. So transform and then center anchor point layer content. This is just so when we animate and keyframe everything, it can move nice and good. But what we're going to do is add 4-color gradient again, and then it should be right here, and then we're gonna add that onto our layer. Now we have to change the colors, yay. So this green right here, we're gonna change this to like reddish pink, a reddish peach color. So it's gonna look like, okay, hold on, all right. So yeah, it's gonna be mostly red for real. So we're gonna do like something around here, that should be good. So right there should be good. And then around this pink area, I like the pink, but we're gonna make it a little bit lighter. And then the blue side, we're gonna make this color like orangish, so like maybe more so yellowish. It should be very light though. And then in this corner right here, we're gonna make it white, so that yellow color that you see, white. But what I will change is the position of it. So if you see the points, if you don't see them, just click on the word 4-color gradient, like literally, and then the point should pop up. But we're gonna move these closer together so we can see more of the color, and then it should look something like this. Perfect. And then we're gonna make this white like on here, so it should look like a ball basically. What we're gonna do is make a new solid, and we can make it white, and then we're gonna do that, and then put the center here. And then if you want, you can actually add fast box blur on this layer, and then increase that just a little bit, not too much though. And then what you can do, make sure your solid or shape layer is centered into the composition, and then what you can do is pre-compose both of these layers, and then you can make a shape layer, and then you can mask it just like this. And then you may need to edit the mask, hold up. But yeah, make sure you hold shift to make it a perfect circle, and then click the word mask, and then you should be able to move it around pressing V, and then you should get something like this. So yeah, I'm just gonna rename this, to like Apple Magic Orb. I don't know what this thing is called, but yeah, we're just gonna name it that. And then after this, we're just gonna duplicate this. But before we duplicate, actually, we're gonna make it rotate. So press R on the layer to bring up rotation, click the stopwatch, and then you're gonna start going towards the end, and then we're just gonna make it like rotate. And since it's centered, it should not like rotate bad, because yeah, that's why we wanted to center it in the composition and center the anchor point, because we need to be able to rotate it. So yeah, that's why I did that. But anyways, it should rotate like this. Very smooth, very clean. But yeah, after that, you can pre-compose it one more time if you want, but I feel like we've pre-composed enough, but we're just gonna do it. And then we're gonna duplicate this layer, so Command or Control D, and then on the bottom layer, you're gonna add blur again. I know, guys. So we're just gonna add fast blur. Hey, we get this glow effect already, but to like make it better, you're gonna duplicate the layer one more time, but instead of using radial fast blur, we're going to use box blur. So fast box blur, and then we're gonna add that to the third layer, and then you're gonna increase that like a lot. And then if you want, you can change the scale and increase it a little, and then you can also add some glow to the actual image, but it already looks like it's glowing low-key, so I wouldn't like add like too much of it, to be honest. But yeah, change the radius, change whatever you need, and then you can like change the intensity. But yeah, I kind of like it like that. But anyways, after you've got the look that you want, you're gonna right click the box, new, and then null object, and then we're gonna connect all of this to the null layer. And the reason we're doing it is because we need to scale it down. So we're gonna choose one of these points, But to like select all of them, you can click the bottom one, hold shift, and then click the top one, or vice versa. Click the top one, hold shift, click the bottom one, and then you want to connect it to the null layer. And now we're going to just scale this down, and it should look something like this. And then after that, what we're going to do is pre-compose everything once it's like scaled down to the thing you want. And then pre-compose everything, shift command C or shift control C. And then we're just going to add turbulence displace because we want it to give it that like, you know, orby look. But we need to like decrease the amount or whatever. So probably like these numbers should be good. So we're gonna make a stopwatch for evolution. So click the stopwatch, and then we're gonna go forward a few frames, and then we're gonna change the evolution to like go higher. And then once you play this back, we should get the apple glowing ball, orby glowing ball. Low key though, the edge is low key like too like thick. I don't know, maybe I'm tripping, but if you want to change that, just go into the pre-comps, and then you can scale the shape layer up or scale it down. But yeah, if you scale it up more, it's gonna get thinner. If you scale it down more, it's gonna get thicker. So I'm gonna change this to like 103 maybe. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. I know that was low-key picky of me, but it's okay guys, it's okay. But anyways, now we need to add our actual memoji. I literally made one just for her. So but anyways, we're going to add luma key to this because we want to remove that black background, and then we're gonna add that on there, and then we're gonna increase this amount, but don't do too much because her eyeballs are low-key gonna like disappear. So like you have to like be very careful. If you do like make her eyes or whatever black out, what you can do is increase the tolerance, but it's looking not working. So alright guys, so I'm back. I was able to fix it, and what I did was basically, if I disable this layer, I basically was able to mask out her face with s_dissolve luma, and then after that I just, this layer is separate, but yeah, this is the layer where her eyes were like more, you know, maxed out with the black background. But yeah, I basically combined those layers. Sorry if it's kind of confusing, but I highly suggest putting your memoji on a green background or blue background or whatever, and then keying that out with whatever. I'm literally going to rename this memoji because yeah, we want to be organized in this joint. But for real, anyways, I like did a whole bunch of facial movements, so I'm gonna like have to choose a segment that I want to use. On our memoji, what we want to do is add like a little white like glow behind her. So what we're gonna do is add drop shadow, and then with this drop shadow we're gonna make it white, and then we're just gonna increase the distance just a little bit, and then we want to increase the opacity so we can like see it. And then after this, we're just gonna increase the softness, and then this gives us that like white glow behind her. And then like increase it as much as you need as far as the softness, and then you can duplicate this drop shadow, and then you can like see like, you know, the, you know, white glow behind her just a little bit more. But yeah, all up to you for real. And then if you want, you can also change like the distance and the direction of it. So yeah, once you are pleased with the drop shadow, I feel like it's too white, but like yeah, okay, that's good, that's fine. All right guys, so we have our background, we have our apple orb, and we have our memoji. Now the most important part, text. So this part is actually going to be fairly quick because text isn't like that time consuming. So first of all, we need to put our text down, and I think I'm going to do like we're just going to do the title of this video, Mastering Apple UI. Perfect. Now for the font, I actually found a font, and it's like a Spotify type font, so it's like cool, but it's called Metropolis, and I'm gonna put the link in the description. But what I'm gonna do is change the color of this to white, and then what I'm gonna do is scale this down, center this in the anchor point, and then I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit. So yeah, yo, this font low-key look like Apple. Anyways, what we're gonna do is start animating the text. So first thing we're gonna do is press this little play button, and then we're gonna press position, and then in the position we're gonna change this to 100. And then we're gonna press this add button, and then we're gonna do property, and then this time we're gonna do opacity, and then we're gonna change the opacity to 0. And then we're gonna press the add button one more time, and then we're gonna do blur because I think Apple uses blur a lot, so we're gonna do blur. Now with the blur, we're gonna change this to 100. You can't see it right now, but you'll see it in a second. But we're gonna put that at 100. Now you're gonna go into range selector 1, and then you're going to go under advanced. And then under advanced, you can see like this based on, and where you're gonna change it to is words. So characters are more individual, and words are like the words itself. So yeah, I kind of like both, but we're gonna do words for now, just so we can be a little bit different. And then under shape, we're gonna do ramp up. So instead of square, it's gonna be ramp up for that. And then we're gonna change the ease high to around like 50 to 60. So we can do 55. And then the ease low is gonna be at 100. And then if we go back to the range selector, we're gonna go under offset, and then we're gonna be editing this for real. So what we're gonna do, it's gonna start at a negative number, so about like negative 60 for me. It might be different for you, but it should be about the same. So about negative 62. Go forward a few frames, and then we're gonna change this to 100. And then once you play this back, it does that, and we get that Apple look, period. Now you can easy ease these keyframes if you want, but I think it looks pretty good at what it's at right now. So it should look something like that. It's gonna be faster though, so yeah. I might just leave this on easy ease. And then if you change this to characters, of course, you're gonna get a different effect, which is like the more individual look. But yeah, it's really up to you. But I'm gonna do both because I'm gonna do 2 sets of text. So first it's gonna start off at words, and then if you want, you can actually duplicate this layer, Control D, and then I'm just gonna do with Jaden FX. And then I'm gonna move this up here really quick. And then I want this Jaden effects to be bold. So I'm just gonna add a white stroke to this. And then I'm gonna increase it just a little bit. And then what I'm gonna do is go under into the like text. And then I'm gonna go under animator 1 and then range selector 1. And then I'm gonna go under advanced. And then I'm gonna change this to characters. And then we have 2 different types. So we have the words and then we have the characters, so you can see the difference. And then of course we want this to be like a little bit like offset, so like we're gonna space that out right there. And then once you play this back, oh, let me put it back just a little bit more. And then once you play this back, you should get something like this. And then I'm just gonna scale this down right here and make sure it's like centered. So yeah, boom, mastering Apple UI with Jaden effects. Yo, that's tough. All right. And then also, if you want, you can do a little graph with this one, because I wanted it to be a little bit faster. All right, period. And now we're done with the text. Very easy, very simple. Before we put everything together, we are on our last main point, and that is Glass UI. Now, I don't think this is really like essential, but it's low-key getting essential because Apple just launched like a new glass thing, and like I really like it honestly, but I heard that it makes your iPhone slow, but that's not the point. I just think it looks good, and I think it'll make your edits pop a little bit more. But let's get started. So first thing we're gonna do is make a new shape layer. This is the last shape layer in this video, like for real. So we're gonna do layer, new, and then we're gonna do shape layer. And then after that, we're gonna do a rectangle like mask. So change this, hold down on it. Oops, I did not mean to do that. And then what we're gonna do is change this to rounded rectangle tool. And then we want it to be like over our text. So we're gonna do something like that. And then we wanna remove the stroke. So click the word stroke and then remove that bad boy. And then you can turn fill on, but you really don't need it, but we're gonna turn it on. And then what we're gonna do is actually make the edges round. So we're gonna go under the contents, and then we're gonna go under rectangle path 1, and then we're gonna increase the roundness. And then we want it to be like very round, so we're gonna put it to the max. Yep. And then after that, we're going to start on our glass look. First thing we need to do is actually make this an adjustment layer. So we're gonna click this button right here. So it's gonna disappear, don't worry. It didn't actually disappear. But what we're gonna do is add blur on this. So we're gonna add fast blur, and you could add Gaussian blur. I'm just using, box blur, guys. But yeah, we're gonna add fast box blur on there, and you could use Gaussian blur, but I'm just using this one because I'm used to it. But what you're gonna do is increase it, and it should blur a little bit, and you get something like this. And we don't want to add like too much blur, but we want to add just enough. But we can also always change and edit this later. But after this, what we're going to do is add the effect transform. And what we want to do is basically like scale it up just a little bit, so then it's like glass distortion. And then what we're going to do is increase the scale just a little bit. So I'm going to do 108. That should be fine. And then yeah, if you look at it, you can kind of see like it already looks like glass, like just a little bit. So we're getting there. And then after this, we're going to add some brightness and contrast. So we kind of want this to like be like a little bit different from the other layer. So you can either decrease this layer or increase the brightness. We want to increase the brightness just a little bit, so we're going to change this to like 3 to 5. Let's see, should we do 5? Yeah, we'll do 5. If you do a higher amount, that's fine, but yeah, it's gonna look like a little bit more noticeable. But if you want, we can do 20 actually, because like 5 is like a little bit too low for me. Let's do 10. Sorry, I need to make up my mind. Now you can also add tint to this layer, and it like gives it like a matte look. So if I add tint on there and then I change this to white, and then if I put this at 12, it gives me like a matte kind of look. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. Let's just do 10, and then it like makes it like a little bit white. And yeah, I'm trying my best to explain this the best I can. I'm sorry guys. After this, we're going to duplicate this layer. So we're gonna press Command or Control D, and then we're gonna remove everything on the second layer. So remove everything but the blur. And then after that, we're going to remove the fill on the second layer, and then we're going to make the stroke white or any color. But yeah, we basically wanted to have like a little stroke. We can do like, let's see, we can set this to around like 50 to like 70. So I'll just do 50. But yeah, it should look something like this. And now what we're going to do is add our like final polished glass look. So what you actually need to do is remove the like adjustment layer. So you don't want to make that adjustment layer anymore, and that's on the second layer, so the one below the main one. Stay with me guys. But yeah, it should look something like this now. But yeah, after that, what you're gonna do is turn off the like, you're gonna switch off the eyeball tool basically, and then we're going to add displacement map on the first layer, which is your original layer. You're going to add displacement map on there, and then you're going to change this to shape layer 1 period. So that's the one that you can't see. But then we're going to change this source to effects and mask, and then we're going to change this to luminance, and then we're also going to change this to luminance. And then once you increase these things right here, it looks like glass. So yeah, that's basically how you do it, and like there's not anything else to it. So yeah, I like to change these both to like maybe 60. Yeah, and then also if you change the fast box blur, you can kind of see like how that works right there. But yeah, you can also decrease this box blur, and like you can see the glass a little bit more. So yeah, but I kind of like the higher fast box blur. But yeah, just like keep increasing this if you want. I think higher numbers look better in general, so in the 100s it looks good. So 160. Oh, look at that number that I just did. But I'm not gonna make a joke out of it because I said I wouldn't anymore. But yeah, if you want, edit the blur just a little bit, up to you. And then finally guys, to give it like some white highlights, we're gonna duplicate the second layer, which is below the main one. Put this on top, undo the eyeball tool, and then what we're going to do is change the stroke to a lower amount, but not too low. And then we're gonna delete the blur, and then change the stroke a little bit more. And then it should look something like this. But what we're gonna do is add set matte on that layer. And then yeah, it's like, it does this. Anywho, after that, you're gonna click this toggle switches modes button right here, and then we're gonna change the mode to add, which is right here, and then we're gonna change the transparency or opacity to a lower amount, so around like 20 something. Yeah, let's do 25 period, and then we get those highlights. And then of course you can add a little bit of blur, so don't like delete the blur. Actually, you just need like a tiny smidge, so like 3% maybe. Yeah, and then we can see that a little bit better period. And then once you increase the stroke, you can add more of that stroke, and then we get more of the highlight. So yeah, now after you've done the glass overlay, you're not done just yet, because if you try to move this, it doesn't move all together with like the layer and stuff. So what you have to do is connect shape layer 3 to the shape layer. So what you're gonna do is connect this layer to this layer, so to shape layer 2, and then you're gonna connect this layer to shape layer 2 as well. So those two layers that like are the extra layers basically, those are getting connected. And then once you move it, it moves all together, as you can see. But yeah, if you want, you can move the text on top of the glass, and then you get this look. Alright, so now to quickly bring everything together, I'm gonna teach you guys how to graph some of this and actually like make all this like, you know, flow together nicely. So what I'm gonna do first is like reposition this text and this, you know, text bubble. It's a little off. So I'm going to click these two layers, and then what I'm going to do is position this upwards just a little bit, just so it's like centered in there more. And then yeah, this is basically going to be like a group together. So you could add a no layer if you want, but yeah, what we're going to do is add that no layer. So layer, new, and then null object. And then what we're going to do is change the color just so it's like not as confusing. But yeah, I'm trying to make everything color coded low key, so yeah, I hope this helps. But yeah, we're gonna connect the text to the null layer, and then what we're gonna do is link the shape layer to the null layer. Now with the shape layer, it's like different parts of it. So we're gonna connect shape layer 1 to that, and then we're also gonna have to connect shape layer 2 to it as well. And I'm gonna check really quick to make sure everything moved, and yep, it did. So yeah, you have to connect those two shape layers to the null layer. I know it can get a little bit confusing, but I hope it's gonna be okay, guys. On this text, we're gonna add like some extra effects to it. So I'm gonna position this up just a little bit more, sorry. And then I'm going to add a layer style. So right click it, and then we're gonna do layer styles, and we're gonna do bevel and emboss. Now it gives us that, like, I don't know what this effect is called, but it's like an emboss, bevel and emboss basically. So we're actually gonna increase the size like by a lot, and we kind of want to give it like that gradient overlay. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a small gradient. And then we're going to soften it if you need to, but yeah, basically we're gonna add a lot of that. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the text up here. So right click it, and then layer styles, and then bevel and emboss, and then go under bevel and emboss, and then we're going to increase the size by a lot. And then we're going to add drop shadow. So we're going to search for drop shadow, and then we're going to add that onto the text as well. And then we want to like do like that, and then we want to increase the softness like by a lot, low key. So yeah, we're gonna copy the drop shadow and then paste it onto our other text layer as well. And then it should look something like this from afar, nice and clean, period. And then with this text right here, it's low-key a little muddy because it's like a little bit thicker, but I'm gonna let it slide low-key. I might, let's see. If you want, you can also change the depth. I forgot about that as well. But yeah, I'm gonna lower the depth just a little bit. And then it's still there, but it's a little bit less, you know, muddy. But anyways, it should look something like that. And then after that, we're going to add our like bouncy like graphs and stuff. So to do the actual bouncy graph, what you have to do is click whatever you want to make bounce in first. So I'm gonna make the apple orb bounce up first because I'm gonna end up copying and pasting the bounce on the other layers. So what I'm gonna do is press S on my keyboard. Before you scale it down to 0, you're gonna make a stopwatch for scale like a few frames forward, so then you like remember the original position. And then you're gonna go to the beginning and then change it to 0. And then you're gonna go forward like 2 frames. And then you're gonna go to like a higher amount, not too big, but you want to go bigger than the like previous amount. And then what you're going to do is go forward a few more frames, maybe like 4 or 5, and then you're going to scale it down just a little bit more than the original position. And then you're going to go forward a few frames, and then you're going to go like just a tiny bit bigger than the position, like the original position. And then it should look something like this. Oh, it's very stiff. All right. But yeah, you want to move these closer together actually, because I don't think that was 2 frames. All right. And then of course you can edit this. Yeah. If you want, you can highlight these layers, and then you're going to easy ease them by right clicking them, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And then you get that pop effect once you easy ease them. So yeah, I'm going to go into that a little bit more in depth in just a little bit. We're now going to do the exact same thing, but for her face or her head for real. So if you want, you can actually copy the exact same scale, and then you can paste it for the memoji. But what you need to do first, I'm going to add motion blur to all this. Then I'm going to press S on the memoji. Then I'm going to press the stopwatch, and then I'm just going to press Ctrl V. And then after that, I can actually space this out over here. Just a few frames, so then it's like different. And then once I play it back, boom, boop, boop, period. So yeah, there we have our little bounce. If you want, you can also add some like rotation. So you can press R and then click the stopwatch, and then press U to bring up all your keyframes. And then you can actually like copy the keyframes or use it like as a reference basically. And then you can like rotate it this way and then go this way, rotate it this way and go this way, boom. And then set it back to 0 and then highlight over this, easy ease it. And then once you play it back, yeah, we got a little rotation. that's just if you want to do that. And then I'm just playing around with the keyframes, honestly, because yeah, I'm just trying something. Ooh, I kind of like that. All right, that's tough. And then last thing I want to talk about is the bouncy scale. So I don't think I'm going to use the bouncy scale, but if you did want to do like a bouncy shake or whatever, just click this chain and then you just mess around with the stretch. And then literally all you need to do is like stretch it out a little bit. And then yeah, let's see. So yeah, there's one with like a little bit of stretch right there. It's very random. I added like a little opacity and it made it just a little bit better. But yeah, if you want to copy my like keyframes, the first keyframe is at 0, and then if you go forward 2 frames, it's at 127, and then go forward 9 frames, and then it's at 87, and then go forward like 10 frames, and it's at 106, and then go forward like 12 to 13 frames, and then it's at its original size, which is like 100. And then guys, with the scale thing that I showed you with the stretch, you can also do the same thing with the like glass overlay thing. And we're gonna make one right here. And then we're gonna go to the beginning, and then we're gonna change it to a lower amount, so a negative amount, just do 0. And then once you play it back, it'll open. And then of course, do a graph, and then we're just going to do a value graph, and then we're gonna do something like this. And then if you want, you can do like an overshoot graph, but those ones are like a little weird. It does bounce a little bit though, see that? Yeah, but I'm just gonna do a regular graph. And then of course, you can turn on motion blur for anything that you need to. And then also, I low-key need to move all of this up because like, I don't know what's going on. Wait, it's like off by the slightest. Can y'all see that? Anyways, I'm gonna fix it really quick. Okay, I think I fixed it. It's a little bit better. But anywho, as far as the background, I low-key wanna like reveal it. So what I'm gonna do is just like have the opacity fade in and then have it scale in. So it's gonna go from 0 at the beginning, and then towards this point, it's gonna go to 100. And then of course, what we're gonna do after that is have it scale in. So we're just gonna do a basic zoom in, basically. And then we're just gonna keyframe it, and then let's see how that looks. Okay, not bad. And then finally, I'm just gonna pre-compose all of this. So Shift Command C, and then this is just gonna boom. Before I finish the tutorial, I'm going to do one more thing, and this is like just a little bit extra. If you stay to the end, you're in for a treat. But anyways, what we're gonna do now is basically have this zoom out. So first it's gonna zoom in, and then it's gonna zoom out. So we're gonna do a stopwatch for scale, and then when it says Jaden effects, I'm gonna make it zoom in a little bit, just like so. Boom. And then I'm gonna easy ease these, and then I'm just gonna do a mid graph using speed graph. So I'm gonna do something like this, and then after that I'm gonna make a null layer. So layer, new, null object, and then after that I'm going to connect this video to the null, and then I'm gonna have it scale out. Now you're about to see what I'm about to do in a second. And then I'm going to easy ease them again, and then I'm going to do another mid graph. Now guys, I'm gonna add some rounded edges. So I'm gonna use the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, and then I'm just gonna simply go around the edges like so. And then I'm gonna make it a little bit rounder. So I'm gonna go under, you may need to double click it, but the expansion, and then we're gonna like increase the expansion a little bit, just a little bit though. And then we're just gonna animate the expansion. So once it comes out, it's going to round the corners. So yeah, just like that. And then we're gonna match the graph for those like rounded corners. So highlight over this, easy ease, and then we're just gonna do the exact same speed graph as what we're doing. And then of course you can use the null layer to like see where it like zooms out, and then you want to match that graph. And then guys, we're gonna make a new solid. So not a shape layer, a solid, and we're gonna make this white, but we don't want it to be pure white. We want it to be like a little bit off-white, because yeah, off-white is a good color. Then we're gonna press OK, OK. Then we're gonna put this at the bottom. And then after that guys, this part is like the main part that I wanted to do. But basically we're gonna have like a gradient drop shadow that Apple has, and then we're gonna have the trim paths come on the corners. If you don't know what trim paths are by now, you haven't been watching me obviously. But to do like the gradient background, we basically have to make a whole bunch of circles or like particles, and then we have to make it very blurry, and then it's gonna make a gradient and it's gonna look good, trust. What we're gonna do is make a new solid, and then out of these solids, we're going to make like different color gradients. So it's gonna be pinks, oranges, all that stuff. So we're gonna put this on the top, like for now. And then after that, we're gonna use our ellipse tool, and then we're gonna make a mask, hold shift, and then you basically wanna make a whole bunch of circles. So hold shift, and then after that, what you're gonna do is scale this down, pressing S. And then before like it zooms out, that's when you want the movement to start. And basically, you're just gonna make everything go wild. So to make it like move around and stuff, we're actually gonna use motion sketch, and this is going to like let us move it around. So if you don't have motion sketch, all I have to do is go to window, and then motion sketch should be in here. In this case, it's right there. And then after that, what you're gonna do is just press start capture, and then you're just gonna start dragging it around, basically. Start capture, and then you're just gonna make it like go in different directions, basically. Now, after you've done this, you're going to pre-compose this. So pre-compose, and then after this, what you're gonna do is you're going to duplicate this layer, and then you're gonna add the effect fill to it. Add that fill, and then this time we're gonna make it like orange. Press OK, and then what you're gonna do is right click it, transform, and then we're just going to flip it. So flip it horizontal or vertical, whatever you want. And then we're gonna duplicate one more time, and then we're just gonna change the fill color to like yellow. And this time we're just going to right click it, and we're gonna do transform and then flip vertically. And then if you need to, you can rotate it because we want it to like be in different directions. So yeah, you're just gonna duplicate it a whole bunch of times, and you're gonna change the positioning, and they should all be different basically. So yeah, Control D to duplicate, and then just put them all around the screen. Like literally go wild. Go as many times as you need to, and then yeah, make sure everything is alternating, obviously, because yeah, I feel like the pinks are probably the most important color, but yeah. Now, once you have a few of these circles, you can actually pre-compose all the circles. And then after this, you're going to, guess what? Scale it down, duplicate it, and then move it right next to each other. Duplicate it one more time, move it over here. Duplicate it one more time, move it over here. Duplicate it one more time, move it over here. Duplicate it one more time, move it over here. Duplicate it one more time, move it over here. And duplicate it one more time, move it over here. Duplicate it one more time, sorry. And then move it in this corner. And now, the circles should roam free. And then you're gonna pre-compose it one more time. And if you want, you can of course do it again, but you don't need to do that many. But now, finally, you're going to add blur. And we're gonna do box blur because we've been using it this entire video. So yeah, fast box blur. And then we're gonna increase that like a whole ton. And you wanna do like enough to where it's like this. Maybe do some more. And then you're gonna scale this down. And then what you're gonna do is scale it up just a little bit. And basically what you're gonna do is position it like a drop shadow, put it underneath this layer, which is the like video clip. And then after that, what you're gonna do is actually turn off repeated edges. And then once you blur it, there should be like no like sharp edges or whatever. And then once you play this back, we get that gradient, like Apple gradient, you know, drop shadow. So yeah, I feel like there's a simpler way to do this, but this is how I learned how to do it. So yeah, but other than that, that's how you do it. And then of course, move it over here, and then easy ease this. And then of course, you're going to do something like this. And yeah, people will never know that it's literally circles like moving in the background. And then also on top of those circles, you can add some glow just to like give it more like pop, I guess. And if you need to, you can change the opacity of it. So yeah, and then you may need to scale it down more. And then guys, finally, we're gonna do a trim path. So we're just gonna do a shape layer, but this is the last shape layer for real this time. I'm serious. You have to believe me guys, this time. But anyways, you're gonna use the pen tool, and this time we're gonna like create like a line like this. And yeah, it doesn't need to be like too complex or whatever. But yeah, you're simply doing this, and then after that, wherever it zooms out, that's where the animation is gonna start. And then we're just gonna press add, and then trim paths, and then we're going to change the start and ending. So the end we're gonna set to 0, and then we're gonna set a keyframe, and then go forward a few frames, and then we're just gonna put that to 100. And then after that, we can just do like a mid graph or whatever. So we can actually make it like come in when it's zooming out if you want to. And then of course we have to do a mid graph like this. You may need to do it tighter actually. And then I'm just gonna scale this up just a little bit. And then of course we're gonna add some gradient to this trim path Guys, we can't get enough of the gradients in this video, I know. And then we're gonna add that on there. And then these colors are actually pretty good with the vibe we're going for, so we're just gonna keep it at that. But I'm gonna change this green color because we will not be using that. And then the blue is pretty good. I'm just gonna make it like more purplish. And then after that, you're almost done. All we have to do left is duplicate it. And then after that, we're going to rotate it just like so. And then after that, you can make this 3D. And then you can like mirror it basically. And to do that, all you have to do is like do this and then rotate it like this way. And then yeah, do it like that. And then yeah, you can add some glow to it. But I feel like we have enough glow low key. Like low key, I might add just a little bit. Just a little bit, guys. Just a little bit. But yeah, just add glow and then you are all done with this like edit, whatever this is called. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you guys so much for watching. This video was low-key a lot. I was supposed to do more, but I'm gonna have to take it a little bit slower. But if you guys want a part 2, comment down below and stay safe. I love you and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.